Hey, welcome to week 14 of Quick Hits, Waiver Hits. Mr. Tony, how we doing tonight, Professor?
Good, brother. How you
We
doing?
had good. I'm doing good. We had people in BoomBust right before this. Where's Tony? Where's Tony? Well, he'll be on after. He'll be on after this. So everybody loves Tony, man.
Yeah, you're
So,
talking
so we got
about just
Tony.
a small number of guys.
So we have Tony here with us to enlighten us.
Yeah, I don't know
So
about that. We're gonna try.
I was gonna say the waiver wire this week is not a very exciting place to be. There's not a ton of guys out there that I don't think people will just be necessarily jockeying for. Do you have one that kind of stands out for you above the rest as your top priority?
I have a couple actually. It is slim pickings this week, but there are maybe 3 or 4 guys I think that you're gonna want to think about adding off of waivers. I have a couple of running backs, a couple of receivers. I
All
don't know
right,
where you like to start.
let's start at running back. Who's your first one there?
Yeah, so surprisingly, one of the guys who's still available, and we talked about this last night in Panic Room, not very crazy about grabbing Bill Belichick running backs, but Ramondre Stevenson is still widely available in over 50% of leagues. And you could definitely see a much larger usage if anything happens here with Damian Harris. Damian Harris pulled his hamstring against the Bills. They brought him back prematurely, and it looks like he tweaked it on that one run. So if they're going to be kind of preserving this guy, wanting him to get healthy for the playoffs, we could see Ramondre Stevenson certainly have a more expanded role in that offense. So that's the case. You're going to keep a very, very close eye on the injury report for Damian Harris, and if that's the case, I'm going all in on Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson would be really, really good. Unfortunately, he is on a bye this week, so you might have to prioritize based on your needs for the current week. So
Fair
also
point.
keep that in mind if you're looking at Ramondre. I guess
That is a fair point. But you're gonna be hard pressed. Kind of we were talking about. You're gonna be hard pressed to find a running back who's going to give you this type of upside off of waivers
right.
this point in the season.
Very true. Very true. I just want to throw a couple names out there. Well, one name. Well, no, two. Because
I've got one more, but go ahead and throw yours out.
I was going to say they might be the same. It's those Dante Foreman and Dontrell Hilliard are both pretty available. If you can get a hold of them for Tennessee, I think I prefer Hilliard just because of the catches that he'll be getting. But
Sure.
Foreman's a better pure runner, probably. I'm trying to remember what their schedule is: Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, San Fran, Miami. So a couple of good ones, a couple of rough ones. But if you're in dire straits for a running back, you could do a lot worse than those Tennessee guys.
100%.
Yeah, what are you thinking with your second one there?
Yeah, so the other guy that I was going to mention, again, you got to really keep an eye on the injury report, but JaMycal Hasty is interesting too.
Yeah.
Depending on the status of Elijah Mitchell, Jeff Wilson looks like he banged up his knee. So JaMycal Hasty could be thrust into a starting role there in San Francisco, at least for the short term.
Mm-hmm.
And we already know that that's a very, very fantasy-friendly position, that
Definitely.
running back position in San Francisco. So that's just something to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I like that. All right, let's move on to receivers. And I know your top guy's probably the same as mine, Russell Gage, right?
It's got to be Russell Gage. I'm going in all in at this point with Russell Gage, with his utilization now in that offense. This is a guy who we kind of expected to have a very large role with the news on Ridley. Laid that initial goose egg that first week, and kind of raised some concern. But this guy is now beginning to see elite usage in that offense. Russell Gage is a guy that if he is available on waivers, you got to keep your fingers crossed that you can get him.
Yeah, because he laid that goose egg, and then he had an okay game, and then I think he laid another goose egg, and everybody just gave up on him. But he
Yes.
was still kind of hampered by that, that injury that he had. And so then once he got healthy, now you're seeing the usage you expected, and he's sitting on everybody's waiver wires. So yeah, I think he has to be the top priority this week. Who's your second one?
Yeah, so the second one is another guy kind of flying underneath the radar, and that is kind of a fan favorite guy we've talked about quite a bit throughout the course of the season, especially earlier in the season, and that's Julio Jones.
Yeah.
Julio Jones is getting right, and he's due to come back this week with AJ Brown out indefinitely. This passing offense can run through Julio, and I really I like him a lot. It's a little bit of a gamble because
It is.
with that hamstring, there's no telling what might be. I'm a little bit concerned about grabbing this guy and plugging him into your lineup, and you got to kind of keep your fingers crossed he's going to make it through a full game. But if you are needy at the receiver position, Julio Jones is a guy who you might be willing to gamble on.
He's one of those shoot for the moon, I need a big play upset type insertions into a lineup to get into the playoffs kind of things. He's not something you're going to trust, but that could pay off big if it works out.
So really, I agree. But it depends on your roster. If you need a guy who's going to give you that type of potential, who has a high ceiling, and you need that to compete because you don't have that type of ceiling on your roster, he makes sense. And I'll give you an example. On a couple of leagues, I have stock in Rashad Bateman, and so Julio is a guy that I would play over Rashad Bateman if Bateman was a player you're counting on down the stretch, somebody like that. So he's definitely worth an ad, and see what happens over the next week or two. There is a gamble though. He is definitely a riskier guy.
Yeah, he is way more risky than Russell Gage. So
100%.
There's one more I wanted to throw at receiver, and also using to kind of transition into tight end. KJ Osborne for Minnesota.
Yeah.
With Adam Thielen out, and also Tyler Conklin.
Sure.
For Minnesota. I think both of them get a pretty good boost now with Thielen banged up. And I think they both are worthy. I think Conklin has to be a top tight end on waivers this week with that injury. Do what?
Especially with the injury to Thielen.
Yeah. With him going to be out, I think he gets a bigger boost than Osborne, honestly.
Sure.
Just because of the type of player that Thielen is. So I definitely like those guys.
No, I would agree with both of those, and I'll throw one more out there. This is kind of another guy in the lines of a Julio Jones if you miss out on Julio, and that's Devonte Parker. Devonte Parker, when healthy, has been very, very dependable in fantasy. So his production is going to be there. I do like Devonte Parker quite a bit. They do have the bye this week, but he comes back with the Jets, the Saints, and the Titans. 3 very, very favorable matchup for those Miami receivers.
Yeah, that's a good call.
And that's kind of even more the reason why I'm a little bit more comfortable getting Parker, because he's got yet another week here to get healthy.
Yeah, Parker's last year also was very good when healthy, but he does have an issue with that. So probably he's not quite as injury risky as Julio at this point, but they're both pretty risky.
Sure. Yeah, it depends what you're doing in receiver. If you have a Thielen and you took an injury at that spot this past week, or again you're in a receiver needy position, those are definitely guys to consider.
Yeah, totally. Anybody else at tight end? Maybe maybe Foster Moreau if he's still there. If Waller misses again, I think Waller's day to day though, so he might not even miss anymore.
Yeah, I think Waller's trending in the right direction. So, I don't, and based on what we saw this last week, I don't know how much you can really trust Moreau. We saw that one good
Yeah.
week when Waller was out, and I think we all kind of had high hopes. He was one of our DFS plays on DFS Twin Show, and so I'm very familiar with Moreau.
He only had
But
one catch this week. That was tough.
yeah, but I mean, you just can't risk that in your lineup. So I think you could do better at the tight end position. I think you kind of nailed it with Tyler Conklin. I don't know if there's anybody else really out there at the tight end position that kind of catches my eye.
Yeah, because I mean, you saw Logan Thomas get banged up again, but then so is Ricky Seals-Jones, and you don't want the third stringer there, so that
Sure.
really doesn't leave a whole lot
Right.
at the tight end position on waivers.
Yeah, no, totally agree.
Who do you like as defense streamers this week?
Yeah, that's a really that's really a good question. You kind of threw that at me last week.
Were you prepared for it this time?
Well, I've got some defenses, but I think I remember I play. So my primary league is an auction league. We have forced rosters, so we are required to have two defenses on our roster, and so it doesn't it leaves very very slim pickings at the kind of on that waiver wire. I mean, one defense that I think you can consider are the Chargers. The Chargers are widely available going up against that Giants offense. It's kind of a streaming defense last week with the Dolphins. So I think you could look at the Chargers as a streamer. The Seahawks seem to kind of get right this past week. Otherwise, I would have said the Texans, but I don't know that you can trust them against that Seahawk offense. If you give me, you got a couple defenses in mind, and maybe we can rank them.
Well, I was looking at like maybe Green Bay against Chicago, but then Chicago looked pretty good this last week. Montgomery getting right.
What's the availability of a defense like the Packers?
Oh, I don't even know where to find a stat like that. But I know they're available on pretty much all of the waivers in my leagues.
So I'll give you a couple of
which
defenses.
is basically what I go off of.
Let's do this. A couple defenses that aren't necessarily always in the top 5. Let's do that, because it's hard when you say streaming. When I think streaming, I'm thinking defenses that you can just pick up off of waivers and play.
Yeah, me too. So, and like for me, like Green Bay is available in most of my leagues.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's talk about a couple of defenses that maybe are traditionally inside the top 5 that you can feel very comfortable starting this week. Let's just kind of rattle off a couple of them, and I got a list here in front of on the schedule.
I was gonna say I just got a schedule pulled up here. I like
so Baltimore has been very very favorable offensive matchup for opposing defenses. The Browns have a pretty tight front 7, so you can think about the Browns against that Baltimore offense. Even the Seahawks, the Seahawks defense versus Houston. Houston's offense is really struggling. Not quite sure what's going to happen this week at the quarterback position, but that might be a defense who you could probably slide into your top 10. That probably is going to be a very good DFS play going up against that Houston offense, who's been the most favorable offense versus opposing defenses. And then we've already talked about the Chargers. Maybe even the Titans versus the Jaguars. That might be another defense that you can consider if they're available on waivers, or even if they're sitting somewhere on your roster.
Yeah, and I think one that I wouldn't feel horrible about starting, but I'd prefer those other ones we just talked about first, would be maybe Atlanta against Carolina. Especially if Cam plays like he did last week. Or before the bye.
Yeah, right? You know what? That's an interesting play, playing that Falcons defense.
So that one could be interesting. I had another one here. Oh, what do you think about the Jets D versus New Orleans? If all they have is a banged up Taysom Hill, think that's a sneaky play, or?
It could be.
Getting too cute with that one.
I think you're getting too cute with that one, and I think like this is a week where if you have Taysom Hill, you're rolling with Taysom Hill
Yeah,
because Taysom Hill could run for 120 yards against this Jets defense. Is Kamara due back this week?
I have no idea yet.
Yeah,
I
the
haven't
Jets are
seen anything.
also they like to turn over the ball a lot. So, I think you might want to flip it. That Saints defense might be the number one play this week versus
And
that
the
Jets
Saints are
offense.
pretty widely available too, I believe. We had some questions during BoomBust a minute ago
Yeah.
that was asking about Saints D, Carolina D were both available and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that
um,
Saints defense against the Jets offense, you could have 3 pick sixes in that game. So
yeah, that's gonna
that kills your Jets play.
yeah. Yeah, that one's getting a little too cute. I think we covered most of the good ones.
Yeah, I mean you have your regular starters, but even if so, I own in my forced roster league, I have the Bills and the Ravens. And I'm probably starting the Ravens over the Bills this week versus that Tampa Bay offense because that
Yeah,
game could be a shootout. And I'm just not confident starting that Bills defense. So some of those defenses I would start over a top tier defense, even like the Bills this week.
yeah.
The Chargers, the Seahawks, I would trust both of those. The Browns, the Packers, the Saints, all of those are plays over the Bills.
Well, it's like I've been playing Arizona in one of my leagues all year, and they got the Rams this week, which makes me a little nervous. So I'll probably end up with one of these streaming defenses this
I would
week.
shy away from, yeah, I would definitely shy away from the Cardinals this week.
Yeah,
The Rams are they're like a bottom five team for opposing defenses. That's a very, very tough matchup.
yeah, very tough. All right, are there any other waiver claims that you want to get into before we jump over and answer
No,
questions in the chat?
no, I think we're good. I can't think of anybody else that we missed.
I did tease a little bit last night and then in Boom Bust again that we might cover kickers, but let's answer questions first because Mike seems to be panicking quite a bit. He should have been on last night's show, Panic Room. So let's answer his questions, and then maybe we can cover kickers at the end just for fun.
Okay, let's do it.
I don't know anything about kickers, but it'll be fun.
Yeah,
All
we can
right.
definitely give it a shot.
Yeah, we'll give it a try. First of all, he says Hub versus Atlanta or Devonte Freeman versus Cleveland.
Um, Hub,
Chubb. It's
Chuba
Chubb.
Hubbard, yeah. I'm thinking. I thought maybe
Oh no,
he
I
had a
thought
like a
it is
misspell. I
Chubb.
was talking
You're
about
right.
Chubb, but Chubb's not playing Atlanta, so okay.
I
Yeah,
thought it was Chubb, and then yeah, you're right. He's not playing Atlanta. That's a host fail. I read it wrong.
yeah,
So Hubbard versus Atlanta, Devontae Freeman versus Cleveland.
gotcha. I love Devonta Freeman. I think this guy has played his way into my lineup. I see him as a mid RB2. He's getting very, very strong usage in that offense. And I like him in this matchup. I think that Cleveland is more of a neutral matchup um, for opposing running backs. And I'm not crazy about Hubbard, especially with Cam Newton behind center. And so, I need to see him be able to produce and get the type of high volume and usage in that offense before I trust Hubbard. Devonta Freeman's coming on.
Yeah. That I was gonna say the same thing that you said about Hubbard with Cam at quarterback. That makes me a little bit nervous. He already wasn't very efficient at getting touchdowns before when he was covering for CMC, and now that Cam's there, I really think he's going to struggle for very good production, even
Yeah,
in what on paper is a fantastic matchup. Trying to
could be.
figure out. Oh, yeah, I guess he was just giving us his roster after the question. So,
So those are he's Renfro, Andrews, Gronk, Davis, and well, Debo Samuel. Is he back this week?
I don't think he's supposed to be back this week.
Because I know he's still listed as questionable, and the first injury practice report doesn't come out until tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think I think he's supposed to miss another week, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think he was just giving us his roster to kind of show how he's picking between Hubbard and Freeman. I think. He has Hurts on bye this week, 5-1, playoffs next week. Could drop down to 6th if you lose. No other super flex for QB. Start Debo or trade for a QB. If it's a super flex, you got to get a QB. But I don't know if Debo's the move.
He has no quarterback to play in the super flex. Is that the point?
Yeah, it's a super flex. He only has one quarterback, Justin Herbert, because Hurts is on a bye.
Yeah, but what?
So it's a 1 week QB rental basically.
Right. So it's unlikely that any quarterbacks will be available on waivers, especially if it's
Right.
a super flex league.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike.
Yeah, are there anybody on waivers?
And who, like, what type of quarterback are you going to get for Debo?
He says, I think I need to trade for the QB first. So I guess he's trying to trade for Jimmy G. If I'm understanding those correctly. Jake Fromm got picked up. Matt Ryan's available. Oh, I don't like that matchup, but all right, not trade Debo. Then I'm going to need you to rephrase your question. We're getting small pieces at a time and they don't fit together. Oh, trade for QB or start Debo at the Superflex spot? You can't. I don't think you can start Debo because I don't think he's playing this week.
I don't know that he's out. I know he's questionable with that groin. So again, we don't have the practice report.
If he only misses 1 week with a groin, I think they said 2 to 3 anyways when he first got hurt was the timetable. Yeah. You could trade for Matt Ryan.
Mike, if you don't start Debo at your super flex, don't worry about projected. If you don't start Debo at the super flex, who else do you have to start there?
And what is Matt Ryan going to cost you if you trade for him?
Is that who you're looking to trade for? Is Matt Ryan?
That's what he said. I guess he's the only guy anybody's trading right now, which makes sense.
I mean,
you can trade Christian Kirk for Matt Ryan.
I would not. If you could trade Christian Kirk for Matt Ryan, I would do that. But I wouldn't trade Debo for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's going up against. He's at Carolina.
No, he's not. He's not trading Debo. He was asking if he should start Debo or trade for a QB, but you can't start Debo because he'll probably miss this week. So you got to trade for a QB or pick one up off of waivers. I don't know who's on. He hasn't said who's on waivers yet. But if you can trade Christian Kirk for Matt Ryan, I'd go ahead and do that. That's better than anything that'll probably be on waivers anyways.
I would trade for Matt Ryan to have him as an option to play, especially depending on what happens with Debo. But I would not start Matt Ryan this week at Carolina.
He only needs him this week because Hurts is on a bye.
But I would not.
When Hurts comes back, he has Herbert and Hurts. He doesn't need him anymore. He just needs a 1 week fill in.
Okay.
So that's what I've pieced together from all of this.
I would not trade. I would not start Matt Ryan this week at Carolina. And are we sure that Hurts is due back after the bye? Because I know he lost that start to Gardner Minshew. Is he going to be the clear-cut starter in 2 weeks?
Man, who knows? Minshew
what's the status with his injury?
Minshew looked pretty good.
So there's a little bit of a gamble with Hurts. Matt Ryan definitely gives you some insurance. If all you have to do is give up Kirk for Matt Ryan, I would do that. I just would not start Matt Ryan this week. But I do like Matt Ryan.
But then there's no reason in him do it. Then there's no reason
as an insurance policy.
Yeah, maybe as an insurance policy.
Because with that roster, he is not starting
Right now, he's saying he only has Christian Kirk as a super flex option if he can't start Debo and doesn't trade for a QB.
Got it.
So I don't know.
Got it.
I don't know what else is on your waivers. You can pick up a QB, at running back, receiver, at any of that stuff. So
I got it. Now I got it. Yeah.
we
So
eventually get there. We eventually get all the info we need here.
yeah. I mean, I definitely like Matt Ryan over Christian Kirk this week. If you can move Christian Kirk for Matt Ryan, I would do that. I would start Matt Ryan over Christian Kirk, is what I'm saying. Christian Kirk has been mostly non-existent in that offense, and with D Hop back, look, they put D Hop on a pitch count yesterday or Sunday, and he still had the majority of routes run in that offense. So I think D Hop is going to take back that passing game. Like that passing game is going to run through him starting this week.
Yeah, Mike, I get that those guys are all out, but who's on your waivers that you can pick up to
Well,
replace one of those guys on bye or
He says
whatever?
he needs to make a trade. So make a trade.
So yeah.
If you can get something for Kirk, trade him.
Yeah. Try for a different quarterback than Matt Ryan if you're trading for a QB. I'm going to hop back up here. Markeith Washington. What's up, buddy? Oh, he says, wow, you guys really like the Chargers. Chargers or Kansas City defense. Dude, we were just looking for, fill-ins, streamers. They got a good matchup.
I like the Chargers defense this week versus that struggling New York Giant offense. The Chargers are at home, so the Giants are traveling west. They're hurt at the quarterback position. They're hurt
They're
at the
third
receiver
string
position.
quarterback. Yeah.
And the Chargers have a shutdown passing defense. So I'm rolling with the Chargers this week.
Yeah. Yeah,
the over-under in that Chiefs-Raiders game is, I think, 52. So they're expecting that game to be a little bit of a shootout. Now, they might be projecting Kansas City Chiefs to score 80% of those points. But
That's true. That's true.
Waller comes back this week. I definitely like that Chargers defense.
Yeah. Most weeks, no. This week, definitely. And then he wants to know if Keenan Allen plays this week. Honestly, I'm not sure yet. Too early to know.
Yeah, we're not gonna know a lot of this until we get to the kind of the latter part of this week. He's not injured. This is a COVID issue, so he should be able to clear the COVID protocol hopefully by Sunday.
Should be.
He has to have 2 negative tests within a 24 or 48-hour window, so he's got time.
Mike says, what about Tim Patrick versus Detroit?
I don't know. What do you think of Tim Patrick?
As a super flex? I guess that's his super flex. I mean,
that whole offense seems to be.
That whole offense is rough right now, but Detroit sucks. I think it's another Javonte Williams day. I like him better than Christian Kirk.
No, I do too. He's just not getting strong enough usage in that offense. It is a nice matchup for him. I would trust him, like you said, over Christian Kirk, but boy, that stings to kind of roll him out in your super flex.
Yeah, it does.
I would do the move. I would trade. Go ahead and get Matt Ryan. I do. I mean, look, he's going up against.
He's not trading Kirk for Ryan. That wasn't the deal. I was trying to decipher his messages.
Got it.
But when we finally put together, then that's not what he meant.
So what was he saying about Matt Ryan?
He meant trade for Matt Ryan or play Christian Kirk in his flex.
What do you have to give up to get Matt Ryan?
I don't know. I asked him that already. He didn't say. Should I risk losing a player for a 1-week QB or a first round for 2022? Keep your draft picks, I say. He has 4 first-round draft picks for 2022. Hang on to those. It just helps you win next year. He wants 2 firsts for who? Matt Ryan? Because I wouldn't do that at all. No, don't do that.
Don't do that.
No.
I wouldn't do that.
No, because
That
you're only
would be
going
a
to use him this
mistake.
week, and he has one of the worst matchups on the planet this week.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that.
Dynasty pile-on. Lions beat the Vikings. Vikings beat the Packers. Packers beat the Cards. Therefore, the Lions are the best in the NFL.
That's good rationale. That'll probably float and get them into the playoffs.
I accept.
I think that's the tiebreaker for the NFL policy.
I think you're right. They just go head to head to head to head to head until they figure it all out.
That's funny.
That's great. That's good stuff. All right. Well,
yeah, I wish we could be more help to you, Mike.
yeah, would you trade for Davis Mills?
Trade what? What are you trading?
Not for your draft picks. I wouldn't.
What are you trading for Davis Mills?
Oh, he wants Kirk? Yeah. Give him Kirk for Mills.
I would do that.
Yes. If he wants Kirk for Mills, I would jump on that. For sure.
That I would do. I would be more willing to gamble with Davis Mills than I would with Kirk. Davis Mills going up against that Seahawk defense at home. Seahawks are kind of middle of the pack. It's kind of a neutral plus matchup for him. And Davis Mills, he had a little bit, not, I wouldn't call it a stretch, but he did have a nice game.
He already hit accept. It's done. I like it.
Done. There you go.
See, now you're all set. Go win your championship, my guy.
I mean, look, it's not the best super flex, but you got a quarterback who's going to give you some potential there. I would definitely have that over any of the guys that you mentioned. Good job.
Yeah, good deal. Good job right there.
And to be honest with you, Mike, I would prefer to start Davis Mills at home versus Seattle than Matt Ryan at Carolina.
Yeah.
So I think you got the better of the two quarterbacks for this 1 week fill-in.
And you got him a lot cheaper. A whole lot cheaper.
Yes. 100%.
Markeith asked, did Mixon get hurt? I'm not aware of any injuries to Mixon.
Yeah, I did see something on Mixon. I know that he's been dealing with some type of a neck issue. So, and I know that he's questionable for this week versus San Francisco.
I must have missed that.
I don't know the status of that, and I don't know the severity of that. You really have to wait until the injury report comes out this week or tomorrow. Tomorrow is typically the first day where teams have to report on practice. So, kind of definitely keep a close eye on that.
I'm looking over here on NBC Sports Edge where I get pretty much all my info from, and there's nothing about a neck injury or nothing over here. I don't see anything about an injury.
Yeah, I did see something about that, so I know that for sure.
It must have been. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about it.
He actually.
We'll know more tomorrow, though, for sure.
Yeah, no, he checked out of that game. He had some type of a neck injury. He checked out of the game. He did come back, so it leads me to believe that it isn't serious if they let him go back into the game. But it was, I'm 100% certain it was some type of a neck injury that he sustained, and they have him listed as questionable for this week. But that could change after the practice report tomorrow.
Huh? Maybe.
So I don't think it's anything to be super concerned about.
Definitely keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's serious, or he wouldn't have gone back in.
Cool, Mike. Glad we were able to help you.
Matt Ryan is poo. Agreed.
Use your word. He's double poo at Carolina because that defense is brutal.
Yeah, that double poo. He's double poo. All right, man.
He got hasty. Yes. Did you see the opening of our show?
Yeah, we talked about hasty. That is a good one.
So the three guys, or the two guys that I talked about were Ramondre Stevenson and JaMychal Hasty. if
Yeah.
Elijah Mitchell's got to work himself through the concussion protocol, Jeff Wilson looks like he's going to miss with that knee injury. So that San Francisco running back spot is a very fantasy friendly position. You always want to try and own the San Francisco running back, whoever it is. And if it's Jermichael Hasty this week, that could be a really nice pickup for you.
I'll be putting in plenty of claims myself for a Jermichael
I
Hasty
know you have
week.
Elijah Mitchell, so
Do what?
I know you have stock in Elijah Mitchell, so
I do. In my Dynasty and my Keeper League, I have him. And I also have Jeff Wilson in both of those. So
right.
might as well go and get Jermichael Hasty too
You
while
have
I'm
to
at it.
now.
Just got to get the whole set, right? You get the whole
100
set,
yes.
and then they send you the free fourth one in Trey Sermon. I don't know how that works, but
That's funny.
All right.
Sweet.
Well, let's wrap it up there. Any final thoughts before we go, Tony?
No. These are big time decisions that we're making now. This is going to decide whether or not you are in the playoffs or not, where your seeding is going to be. I don't know any leagues that start their playoffs this week. Most of them start next week, week 15.
Yep.
But this is where seasons are won and lost. So
don't mess up.
Don't mess up. Yeah,
right.
I see that, Mike. You got to start Madison.
Yeah, Mike says last one. Madison or J-Rob, I agree. It's got to be Madison.
Got to be Madison. Tennessee is top 5 defense versus opposing running backs. James Robinson is kind of been dinged up a little bit. Pittsburgh, you saw what Mixon did to them just a couple weeks ago. So they've been very soft for opposing running backs. Madison's going to get a full workload in that game. I would definitely roll with him. And, Minnesota's at home in that game. So you got Minnesota at home on turf versus J-Rob at Tennessee in the elements. Well, and Tennessee, not really the elements, but again, at least in that visitor mindset with the crowd and that strong run defense. I wouldn't be playing J-Rob over Madison this week.
Yep. Agreed.
Matt, anybody could be a dud. It's possible Madison could be a dud, but so could James Rob.
J-Rob already did it last week. So, yeah, give me Madison there. All right, everybody. We appreciate y'all being here. It was a good night. And we will see you tomorrow for our matchups show live. So, come on back and have a good night, everybody.
All right, fellas. Thanks for everything. Appreciate your support. Thanks, Kyle.